Welcome to SunConnexion and congratulations for joining our online moon talk. My name is Renee. I am an astrologer, but I am also an astrologer who is in love with the moon. And I am so excited to be able to share my knowledge with you. I love the moon firstly because I found it beautiful. I know it might sound subjective, but it's something that I love. But I also like the moon because it is ever-changing. The moon is the closest celestial body to the Earth. And in astrology, the moon mirrors our emotions. It mirrors our instinct and what's going on beneath the surface. In fact, speaking of surface, did you know that we always see the same face of the moon? It turns every day, yet it always shows us the same face. And maybe this is a reminder. This is a reminder that we all have a side that stays hidden, a secret place that doesn't need to be shared. So this is why I love the moon. It's because not only it's beautiful, but on top of that, it's very complex. And in astrology, the moon is also the representation of the mother archetype. The moon reflects how we feel. It tells us how we were nurtured growing up. It also tells us how we nurture others. And it tells us what is it that we need at an emotional level to be nurtured and to feel safe. And every day the moon progresses through the zodiac. And as it moves through the zodiac and change signs, it actually brings different moods and different themes. And there are different issues that comes up and needs to be addressed. So when we have an opportunity to understand these energies and this pattern, it actually helps us to deal with our emotion at much deeper level. And the moon has the particularity to reflect the light of the sun. So the moon also shines light on what needs to be released. So every month, when the new moon starts in a sign, I will basically talk about the sign. I will explain the meaning of the glyph or the symbol of that sign. I will take you through a journey of archetypes and mythology and all information I have about the signs and the moon in that sign so we can better understand what it means. And I will also talk about the axis, the sign that face each other and the story they have to tell each other. In astrology, everything works with polarities. There's always two sides of a coin. So if the moon starts in one sign, it means that we also need to look at the sign that is in front to understand the journey and to understand the story it has to tell us. So we will follow each lunar cycle from the very beginning of the moon cycle when it's the new moon. And we will talk about the full moon as well, when the moon is at its climax, where everything comes to light. Because new moon is always a time to pause. It's always a time to reflect, to plant fresh intention, or to plant emotional seeds. But the full moon is the time where you need to let go of what no longer serves you. And when we follow this and when we have a better understanding of this moon journey, we basically have an opportunity to be enlightened and to move with the flow rather than against it. So this is why this online moon talk is actually quite fascinating. And I really wanted to create this event to be able to follow the moon journey throughout the year. And it will help us reflect on setting up new intention as well as releasing old patterns, emotional blockages, or anything that keep us stuck. So before the class, I really would like to invite you to watch this introduction video because I will be explaining key informations about astrology as well as the moon and why it matters. What is astrology? Well, over 4,000 years ago, humans watched the sky to understand life on Earth. At that time, astrology and astronomy were exactly the same thing. But before we go and explore this question, let's have a look at the word itself. We have astrology. Astro in ancient Greek means stars, and logy means the study of. So astrology could be very much the study of the planetary cycle or the study of the stars and their movement. The ancients saw the sky as a map of time, showing patterns and meanings. And when I say the ancient, I mean the old Babylon. I mean the Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, because in these places, the planets were seen as the gods. And each light in the sky had a name, it had a story, it had a purpose. And the same idea was found in Egypt, in Greece, in Rome, in India, in China, and in many more civilizations around the world. The planets were not just out there, they were part of life down on Earth. So, why was the sky so important? Well, we have multiple reasons for that. But the first one was very much to keep track of time. If we go back to Mesopotamia, they actually watched the moon phase to track months. And they had come up with a lunar calendar made of 12 months. For the ancient Egyptians, they actually used the sun tracking. They were using solar time. And they had a solar calendar made of 365 days. They knew exactly the longest and the shortest day of the year, and it was showing when the season would be shifting. They also would align temple with the solstices. Example could be the temple of Karnak or the temple of Abu Simbel. And they also used the rising of Sirius to mark when the Nile would be flooded. The Greek, they actually mapped the sky into 12 zodiac constellations. And as the sun would move through this constellation each year, they used this to track time and season. The zodiac idea actually comes from Babylon, but the Greek managed to shape it into a way that we are still using today. So let's have a look at the zodiac as if it was a calendar, a big clock, and also a mirror of human life. And based on the season, they knew exactly when to plant, when to harvest, and when to prepare for winter. The second reason people would look up in the sky would actually be for navigation and exploration. If we look at the ancient China, they actually had a moon calendar that is 2,500 years old, and that calendar would observe the tidal patterns, and that's what they would use to find their way. We also have with the Hawaiian and with the Maori culture a similar concept. They were actually using a detailed lunar tide calendar for fishing and for navigation. The Greek, they actually would use the stars themselves, especially the North stars, also called Polaris, to find where the north is. And then they would watch at the sun position for direction and time. They would also sail at night, because at night the sea was often calmer, there was less wind, but it was also a way to avoid surprise enemy. And keep in mind that also the moon reflects the light of the sun. So in the dark, the moon is source of light. And the constellation as well, with what I just mentioned, the Polaris, was a way to know exactly in which direction they were going to. And the final point people would look up in the stars was for religious purposes. The sun and the moon, as well as the planet, were seen as being the gods. So the sky was sacred, People believed that this god controlled life on Earth. And in most of the civilization, not to say all of them, most of them, they would always have a sun god and a moon goddess. And a lot of temples and rituals were actually linked to the movement of the sun and the moon. They would look at the moon phase, or they would look at the eclipses or the solstice, as well as planetary position. So here you go. Astrology and the importance of looking up in the stars. The moon is the closest celestial body to the Earth. It orbits the Earth in 28 days. And as the moon goes around the planet Earth, it creates a gravitational attraction. The moon pulls the Earth's water towards itself. And this phenomenon happens every 12 hours and is responsible for the tides of our oceans. Now, if we look at the planet Earth, it's made of 70% water and 30% mass. And so is our body. Our body is made of 70% water and 30% mass. So as the moon goes around the planet Earth and pulls the Earth's water, the moon also pulls the water that is within our body. And this is very much why we said that the moon is connected to our emotions. It's because the moon, by pulling the water in our body, creates emotional tides within ourselves. Now, the moon is also associated to the mother archetype because the mother is the one who nourishes the baby. The mother provides the baby what the baby needs to feel emotionally satisfied. The mother creates the foundation for growth, and the mother helps shape our inner child. So when we look at where is the moon in the chart, we actually have an opportunity to see what does the person need to feel safe emotionally. And it gives also information about the type of mother the person has had, and talks also about the childhood and the infancy. In order to discuss the moon, I would like to tell you a tale, a mythological tale, and the characters are Zeus, kings of the kings, gods of the gods, and Callisto. Callisto means the most beautiful one. And when Zeus saw Callisto for the first time, he fell in love and wanted to seduce her. So Zeus managed to seduce Callisto, and together they have a son. They have a child, and they called this boy Arcas. Now, the story tells us also that Zeus was married to Hera, and Hera was a very jealous wife. So when she learned that Zeus had a child with another woman, she got mad, and she transformed Callisto into a bear, and she sent the bear to the forest to wander. So here we have already in the myth a story by itself, a mother being separated from her son. Now, Arcas, the son, managed to grow up with Artemis and with other people, and he learned how to hunt. And one day, as he was a young man, he went on his own to the forest to hunt. And he saw a big bear, so he grabbed his bow, he grabbed the arrow, and he put himself into a position to kill the bear, but then Zeus intervened right away. And he said, I cannot allow this, you cannot kill this bear, because this bear happens to be your mother, it is Callisto. And in order that this never happens again, Zeus decided to convert both Callisto and Arcas into a constellation. So he grabbed them and threw them to the sky. Callisto became the Great Bear, a brilliant and majestic constellation, and Arcas became the Little Bear. And those two constellations are always together, the baby bear with his mother. But the story doesn't stop here, because inside this constellation there is a very important star, and that star is called Polaris, and Polaris is the North Star. It's close to the tip of the cone of precession, and it shows us where the north is in the sky. So it is the point in the northern sky that doesn't seem to move, and all the other stars turns around it, so it looks like the center of the sky. So it's the point of orientation. It provides stability and guidance. So how do we link this story to the moon? Well, the story doesn't stop here. Let's ask a question. Why would the ancients select a bear to represent a woman, a mother, and to later become the center of the sky? Well, for that we need to look at a real mama bear and what happened to the animal. When a baby born cubs arrives, it's often very small. It's often blind and underdeveloped. And then there's so much fur into this little ball that it's quite impossible to differentiate the head from the leg. There is no shape. So it is the action of mama bear who is going to lick her newborn baby to stimulate the development, to shape the cub. And it is through this maternal care, this protection, and the emotional bonding that the process of individuation will start. The mother, by licking the baby, will create the foundation for growth for her baby and give it a shape. So just like a mama bear, the mother shapes us. She doesn't just protect, she gives form through touch, through care, through presence. She lays the ground for who we become. And in astrology, the mother is represented by the moon. And here the moon holds the same role, right? The moon reflects the mother archetype. And the moon is the one who nurtures, who bonds, and who gives us an emotional center. So this is how we find our inner Polaris, our emotional north, a foundation we can return to again and again. So what if someone didn't have a mother? Well, the moon doesn't only reflect the biological mother. The moon shows our need for care, for safety, and emotional bonding, no matter who gave it. And if the mother was absent, distant, or harmful, the moon still points to what was missing and how we can now nurture ourselves. So the moon in astrology becomes the map to healing, to help shape our inner child. The moon helps us reparent the part that we're missing. And with the moon, we have an opportunity to find our verticality, something that leads us back to our center, to our inner Polaris. And the bear also has its representation. Yes, it is a monster. And that monster may represent our fear and anxiety, but it's also a sign of protection and a sign of deep healing. So in astrology, when we nurture our moon, we have an opportunity to find our individuality. We can find our center. We can find our inner Polaris. In other words, we stop being a badly licked bear. The moon brings clarity to our inner world. And now you know why we give teddy bears to newborn. Because they all need softness, warmth, and emotional imprinting. But this is also why we associate the moon to our emotion and why I wanted to put this online moon talk together in order to understand the journey of the moon. Because understanding where the moon comes from and where the moon needs to go to is a way to be enlightened and to repair the parts of ourselves that are missing emotionally. I'll see you in class. Thank you.